Gold has surged to record highs in 2025, crossing $4,000 an ounce and climbing 54% year to date, its strongest rally since 1979. This rise is unusual because it coincides with a booming stock market, driven by investor excitement over AI. Beneath the surface, however, the gold rush signals deep anxiety over persistent inflation, a weakening US dollar, trade tensions, and geopolitical instability. Central banks are buying record amounts of gold amid concerns about the safety of dollar reserves, while major investors warn that faith in the global financial system is eroding. The metal's ascent reflects both economic exuberance and fear, a sign of prosperity shadowed by fragility. Why gold is having its biggest year since 1979 by AZLAN ADNAN, MA, Tuesday, 14th October 2025. Gold's remarkable rise in 2025 has startled even seasoned investors. In early October, the precious metal breached $4,000 per ounce for the first time in history, a level that not only signals investor unease, but also mirrors the mood of a world wrestling with uncertainty. According to FactSet, gold prices have jumped 54% year to date, putting this year on course to become the metal's most profitable run since 1979, when double-digit inflation and an energy crisis rattled the global economy. What makes this rally exceptional is not just its magnitude, but its context. Gold usually thrives when stock markets falter, yet 2025 has defied that logic. While the S&P 500 and NASDAQ have soared on the back of investor enthusiasm for artificial intelligence, AI, and big tech, gold has surged in tandem. As David Kotak of Cumberland Advisors observed, the stock market and gold are marching to the beat of two very different drummers. This unusual parallel suggests a divided investor psyche, part speculative optimism, part deep-seated anxiety. On one hand, investors are chasing the promise of AI-driven profits. On the other, they're hedging against the creeping sense that something fragile lies beneath the surface of global markets. Surging global demand. Behind the rally lies a complex web of macroeconomic forces. Inflation in the United States has stubbornly hovered a bit above the Federal Reserve's 2% target for nearly 5 years, eroding confidence in policymakers' ability to contain price pressures. Meanwhile, a wave of protectionist tariffs, now at their highest since the Great Depression, has distorted trade flows, fanned inflation, and further weakened the US dollar. Japan's incoming prime minister has pledged to lower interest rates and expand government borrowing, adding to a global sense of monetary looseness. Simultaneously, the US government shutdown has paralyzed major economic reporting, leaving both investors and the Fed flying blind. In such an opaque environment, gold's appeal as an asset unbound to any one government has only intensified. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva recently captured the prevailing unease. Global resilience has not yet been fully tested. There are worrying signs the test may come. Just look at the surging global demand for gold. Indeed, the weakness of the US dollar, one of the worst in decades, has prompted investors to question the greenback's traditional role as a safe haven. That doubt has become self-reinforcing. As more capital flows into gold, the dollar weakens further, pushing even more investors toward alternatives. Central banks' shifting strategy. Central banks, too, have been among the largest buyers of gold this year. Their renewed appetite can be traced back to Washington's sanctions against Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. When the US and its allies froze Moscow's foreign assets, it sent a clear message to other nations: dollar reserves can be politically weaponized. The result has been a quiet but significant move toward de-dollarization. Countries such as China, India, and Turkey have steadily increased their gold holdings, while others explore settling international trade in non-dollar currencies. For these governments, gold represents a neutral reserve asset, immune to sanctions, default, or political interference. Goldman Sachs has taken note, telling clients this week that the metal could reach $40,900 per ounce by late 2026, citing sustained central bank purchases, continued inflationary pressures, and the likelihood of rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. Market signals and psychological undercurrents. For ordinary investors, gold's rise is both an opportunity and a warning. Its rally has outpaced equities, bonds, and even cryptocurrencies, making it one of the most lucrative assets of the year. but history suggests that such explosive gains rarely occur in calm times. When gold outperforms so dramatically, it often reflects a loss of faith in institutions, in governments' ability to manage debt, in central banks' credibility, or in the perceived safety of fiat currencies. In this sense, gold's record-breaking run says as much about fear as it does about fundamentals. Billionaire hedge fund manager Ken Griffin, known for his political influence and market acumen, voiced unease at this trend. It's really concerning that investors are starting to see gold as a safer bet than the US dollar, he said in an interview with Bloomberg. We're seeing substantial asset inflation away from the dollar as people look for ways to effectively de-dollarize. Griffin's remarks underscore a broader anxiety that the world's monetary system, long anchored by trust in the US dollar, may be entering a period of rebalancing. If investors increasingly turn to gold, not as a hedge but as a default, it could mark a subtle yet profound shift in global finance, beyond the price chart. Gold's meteoric ascent can be read as a mirror of our moment, a convergence of technological exuberance, geopolitical fragmentation, and economic fatigue. The fact that it rises alongside tech stocks rather than in opposition to them reflects a paradox, that the same optimism driving AI investments is also fueling a quiet dread about systemic fragility. Whether gold's climb continues depends on how those contradictions play out. Should inflation ease and the Fed manage a soft landing, prices might stabilize. But if trade wars intensify, currencies wobble, or another crisis erupts, the flight to gold could accelerate even further. For now, the yellow metal gleams as both a symbol of prosperity and a barometer of fear. Its luster brightened not by confidence, but by caution.
In less than a week from now, on the 17th of October, it would have been 7 years since I first saw this video entitled The Insulin Resistance Diet by Cyrus Kambata. It's a lecture by Cyrus Kambata, PhD, who has a PhD in nutritional biochemistry from Berkeley, and previously he had a degree in mechanical engineering from Stanford. And because this video made a lot of sense to me, the very next day, the 18th of October 2018, I started on a whole food plant-based diet. In that video, which actually is, I think is incorrectly named, it should be called the insulin resistance reversal diet rather than the insulin resistance diet. It's a diet that doesn't cause insulin resistance but reverses it. So that was an error I think that needs to be corrected. I've also since discovered that Cyrus has oversimplified the analogy. He makes us think of the cell as a house, the insulin receptor site as a keyhole, and insulin as a key that unlocks the keyhole to open the glucose gateway into the cell. The error he makes, or is slightly misleading, is that he presents intramyocellular lipids, which is a form of ectopic fat, as an antagonist that jams up the keyhole, preventing insulin to bind with the receptor site, meaning the key to unlock the keyhole. Well, the truth is a little bit more complex, nuanced, and complicated. The truth is, intracellular lipids work further down the line. Okay, so it doesn't act as an antagonist. Insulin does bind with the insulin receptor site. However, despite binding with the receptor site, it's unable to unlock the door for very complicated biochemical reasons. Okay, so the analogy holds so far, but in general, he is correct in saying that intracellular lipids is the culprit, as well as its metabolites. The whole problem is a lipotoxicity issue. Anyway, without getting into details of that, I've made a separate. I wrote a separate essay about that. I think I'll turn it into video and post it later. But anyway, it's been 7 years that I've been on this whole food plant-based diet, and I don't just eat plants. I also eat species from other kingdoms, particularly algae, which seaweed belong to. Seaweeds are not plants; they belong to the algae family, and other stuff, like spirulina and chlorella, which are hybrids. They're half cyanobacteria and half fungi or something like that. They're like neither here nor there. And I also eat species from the fungi kingdom. So fungi, mushrooms, toadstools, and stuff like that are not plants. They belong to their own kingdom called fungi. And there are very few animal species that I eat. Okay, one group that I do eat for the omega-3 fatty acids, the omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. There are 3 of them. There are ALA, EPA, and DHA. I can't pronounce their full names. They're a bit of a tongue twister. If you want to hear more details of that, go to Dr. Rhonda Patrick's channel. She's a biochemist, and she can rattle off these chemical names, by heart. Anyway, ALA and EPA are produced in the plant kingdom primarily by flax, chia, walnuts, and DHA is produced mostly by chlorella, spirulina, and seaweed. There are 5 species of fish called smash: salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines, and herring, which are high in these omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids, particularly DHA. And they don't produce it themselves. They get it from eating seaweed or by eating other fish that eat seaweed. Okay, so if you want to go for the primary source, you can have half a teaspoon of spirulina and or chlorella daily. If you take more, I have taken 2 heaped teaspoons a day, and it gives me hypotension because it's very potent stuff. It'll give me postural hypotension. Okay, so although it makes your blood vessel flexible, it can make it also too flexible. It would dilate when it's not necessary and lower your blood pressure quite a bit. Okay, it can make your blood pressure go down to like 65/40 or something, which is, when you stand up from a supine position, if you start seeing stars or feel dizzy, then you've got, postural hypotension. Or you're like squatting down and petting a cat, and then you stand up and start seeing stars, that's an issue. But as long as you can, stand up from a squatting position or from a supine position, that means lying flat on your back, standing up, and you don't see stars or feel giddy, it's fine. Doesn't matter what your systolic or diastolic numbers are. That's a test, actually. It's a qualitative test rather than a quantitative test. The numbers in themselves don't mean anything. It's the qualitative aspects that determine whether you have postural hypotension or not, and whether it's a clinical issue or not. Because if you do have postural hypotension, you're prone to falls and things like that. Anyway, to celebrate my 7 years of going on a whole food plant-based diet. Oh, whole foods means unprocessed foods, okay? Foods which are minimally processed, basically as close to nature as you can find it. Whole foods are defined as foods where nothing good has been removed and nothing bad has been added. Okay, so most commercial food that you find in the supermarket, if it comes in a tin or in a box, it is processed. It's probably dehydrated, had most of its water removed. Some have all its fiber removed, so they're food-like substances. They're not real food. Okay, so if you want real food, go to your local pasar tani, your local pasar malam, and get fresh produce, okay? And you'll find they're surprisingly cheap there and very fresh, because most of these traders do not have refrigeration facilities, so they try to sell everything that they buy from the pasar borong in the morning at their stall. If it's a pasar malam, they try to sell it, and not carry things overnight. So if they run out, they run out, and when they're about to run out, they still have something, they'll sell it very cheap so that they don't have to keep it overnight, because if they do keep it in their lorry overnight, the next day it will be not so fresh and nobody would buy it, so they tend to clear their stock before they finish for the day. So you can rest assured you get very fresh food at Pasar Malam and Pasar Tani. So I also don't take sofas. Sofas are sugar, oil, flours, and alcohol. Sugars, because it's a highly processed product. To make sugar, you have to boil sugarcane juice. So the act of boiling itself destroys vitamins and antioxidants. You're just left with sucrose, which is disaccharide. I think it's a molecule of glucose stuck to a molecule of fructose or something like that. Anyway, white table sugar is poison. Don't you believe anyone who says otherwise. If you eat fruit, sugarcane juice, it's a totally different thing as far as your body is concerned from a metabolic point of view. But if you take diluted white sugar crystals, your body will treat it as if it were poisoned. It will actually poison your body in the long term, not overnight, but in the long term. Same with salt. So I don't take salt anymore, not for a long time. I do eat salty things, but not that white powder. All these white powders are poison. Same with monosodium glutamate. You do have MSG in broccoli, in seaweed, and a whole bunch of other things, but that's in its natural form, and it's very dilute, and it's safe for our body to consume. Our body has been designed to handle it in those proportions, okay? But if you just extract it out and turn it into a white concentrated powder, it's poison. Same with coca leaves and cocaine. When I climbed Machu Picchu, they gave me coca leaves to chew on, and I chewed. It's to prevent altitude sickness, and it's perfectly fine. Didn't make me go high or have hallucinations or go psychotic or anything like that. And then when I asked what these leaves are, they said they're coca, and then I was surprised. I was shocked. Coca, this is the stuff that you make cocaine from? And then, they started laughing at me, and I said, why are you laughing? They said, well, it takes 400 kilos of coca leaves to make 1 kilo of cocaine. And if you go to any supermarket in Peru and most of Latin America, you could find in the supermarket section where they sell coffee and tea, coca leaves in boxes. They sell it very freely, openly, and it's perfectly legal. Okay, it's only when you concentrate it and make it into cocaine that it becomes problematic. And I think the same applies with katom and ganja, marijuana. Anyway, The Swiss physician Paracelsus said long time ago, everything is poison. It's only a matter of dose. And he introduced the concept of a therapeutic window. So the idea is everything is poison, even if it's water, the most essential nutrient, there's this story about the number 3. 3 minutes without oxygen, you're dead. 3 days without water, you're dead. 3 weeks without food, you're dead. So water is very essential. 3 days without it, you're dead. But if you try and drink 11 liters of water at one go, you'd be dead too. Your blood in your body is about 11 liters. So if you drink 11 liters of water at one go, that's about 3.5 gallons. You'd dilute your water by half. Your electrolyte percentage would go very low. You get convulsions, muscle spasm, headaches, vomiting, diarrhea, a whole bunch of other things, and it will be a very slow, painful death for you. So everything, even the most essential nutrient, is poison if it's in excessive amounts. So the idea is to get its sweet spot. There are also things which are poison, which are not beneficial at any dose, even in parts per million. Things like aluminium, cyanide, copper is also a two-edged sword. We need it in very small amounts, but if you exceed that in a very small amount, you can get over-methylation, and you can get bipolar disorders and schizophrenia and stuff like that. So copper is problematic. Aluminium is strange. It's an element that the body does not require at all. We have no dietary requirement for it. It's very strange. It occurs in nature, it's there, but our body just doesn't need it at all. And if it's in the body, it causes problems. Okay? So get rid of all your aluminum cookware. And for the same reason, you should get rid of your copper cookware, because if you have copper or brass is alloy of copper and tin. So if you do have brass, like this Blanger, Tembaga, or copper pots and pans, which the French are very crazy about because it conducts heat very quickly, do get rid of it. You're far better off having cast iron cookware. You do need copper, but it's very easy to overdose on copper, and it's very easy to overdose on aluminium because no dose is safe as far as aluminium is concerned. So just get rid of all your aluminium cookware. Most rice cookers have an aluminium steel bowl, and the ones which are Teflon covered are the worst, because these Teflons will come off, scrape off, and they are microplastic. Teflon is a plastic of sorts, and it's indestructible. It doesn't biodegrade, so it will become microplastic that will get stuck in your body at the cellular level and prevent lots of physiological processes from happening. And what's worse is Malaysia is the world's dumping ground for plastic, and as people, Malaysians have in their body the most microplastic in the whole world. It's sad, but it's true. And it's about time we wake up to that fact and do something drastic about it. Okay, anyway, Saturday, 18th of October 2025, I'm going to celebrate 7 years of eating a whole food plant-based diet. The celebration will be at the Malaysian Association for the Blind Canteen. It's in Brickfields in Jalan Tebing off Jalan Tun Sambantan 4. The easiest way to get there is by monorail. It's one stop away from KL Central. Just get out of the monorail, cross the road. There's a traffic light there, and you're at the MAB complex. Just tell the guardhouse you need to go to my function in the canteen, and they'll show you the way. The pedestrian crossing, the zebra crossing between the monorail station and the MAB, is very hazardous. There are a lot of motorcycles that will curi ayam and cross, despite the fact that the zebra crossing would be beeping and it'll be green for pedestrians, blind pedestrians to cross. These people like to curi ayam. I've smashed a lot of them with my white cane and swore, expletives, choice expletives in half a dozen languages, particularly in Tamil. as well as in Chinese, Malay, English, whatever, because they just don't respect the law. And people who don't respect the law deserve no compassion from me. Okay, I hold them in utter contempt and derision. And there are cars who do that as well. Okay, I've been quite a number of my white canes when cars zoom past me. Quite annoying. They even do it at the pedestrian crossing at UMMC. There's one particular incident where my cane got quite badly mangled by a car that just zoomed past, even though it was supposed to be red for cars and it was green for pedestrians to cross. So I have no sympathy for these people. I mean, I wish if I were autocratic dictator, I'd put them against a firing squad and be shot, because they don't deserve any progeny, you know. I mean, we don't want children of stupid people to be born, because they're most likely to be equally stupid or disrespectful for the law, because I think respect for the law is inherited from parental behavior. You know, children imitate what their parents do. If the parents have a apathetic tidak apa attitude, then the children also will have an apathetic, selfish tidak apa attitude. You know, they'll have a me first attitude, which is bad, because we live in a society, and in society we have to have teamwork, and teamwork is everything. About teamwork is about subordination of self. It's for the good of the group of society, not for your individual advantage. Okay, so it's for our collective advantage. I made a video about Deepavali. I'll post a link here. There are very few views because it's quite deep, and I think most of our audience, you know, it's above their heads. They wouldn't understand. But the whole point of this channel is to post messages that deserve a wider audience. For those who understand, please, you know, viralize it, spread the word so that more people can understand. For those who don't, please watch it again. Try to get something out of it. Some things you need to watch as much as 6 times, 7 times, you know, before different layers of meaning get to you, and then you have a greater appreciation. Just like when I watched Cyrus Kambata's video the first time, the impression I got was that intramyocellular lipids was an antagonist to insulin, but it's not. It actually works in a slightly different way. But the net result's the same. Is, you know, all ectopic fats are poison in the long run, particularly visceral fat. And depending on which, where, you know, where the intramyocellular binds at which particular gland or organ, it will manifest as different diseases. Most commonly as chronic kidney disease, but also cardiovascular disease, and also dementia. In fact, dementia is now known in some circles as type 3 diabetes. Okay, when cells are deprived of glucose, they starve of fuel, so they atrophy and die. And when the cells in that particular organ dies, then the organ fails, and when the organ fails, you have a problem with that organ. Okay, so if you're free on Saturday, 12 to 2:30, do drop by the MAB canteen. Invitations by, what do you call it, donation. If you donate 50 ringgit or above, you can drop by. You can donate by scanning the QR code. I'll provide a link in this video, or you can pay when you come. I'll have a curated menu, but the curated menu is only for the first 8 people to come. And if you come after the first 8 person, or don't pay before so that I can book, you know, get the catering to provide for you, you have to order something else from the canteen menu. Okay? Kashikin is quite accommodating. She will cook something up for you. Either nasi lemak or nasi goreng or mee goreng or whatever. But the menu for the first 8 people would be curated by me, and it will be a whole food plant-based menu. It'll be nasi ulam, actually. Okay, that's it for today. I know this is a long video, but I just want to get the message out there. See you next time. Bye.
Why WFPB, Doctors for Nutrition? WFPB stands for Whole Food, Plant-Based, a diet and lifestyle focused on plant-derived foods that are unprocessed or minimally processed, while minimizing or excluding animal products and highly refined ingredients. The diet emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds, while avoiding added sugars, refined flours, and oils. The core principle is to eat foods in their natural state or close to it, rather than highly processed imitation products. Key principles: whole foods. Foods that are in their natural, unrefined state or have undergone minimal processing, like canned beans or frozen vegetables. Plant-based. Foods that come exclusively from plants, excluding meat, dairy, eggs, and honey. Minimal processing. A focus on foods that are as close to nature as possible, avoiding ingredients that are heavily refined, such as white flour, white rice, and added oils. Nutrient dense. Prioritizing foods rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals to meet nutritional needs. Foods to emphasize. Fruits and vegetables. A wide variety of fresh and colorful produce. Whole grains, such as brown rice, oats, quinoa, and whole wheat. Legumes. Beans, lentils, chickpeas, and peas. Nuts and seeds. Almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, and flax seeds. Foods to limit or avoid processed foods. Any food that has been heavily altered from its natural state. Animal products. Meat, dairy, and eggs. Refined grains, white flour, white rice, and pasta made from refined flour, added sugars and artificial sweeteners, including high fructose corn syrup and confectioner's sugar. Added oils, even those considered minimally processed like olive oil, are typically excluded due to their processing and added calories. WFPB versus vegan diet. While both are plant-focused, a vegan diet focuses only on eliminating animal products and can include highly processed foods, while a WFPB diet additionally emphasizes whole, minimally processed foods.
In the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to show your support. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to show your support.